What is up with all of you? It's another Friday edition of our late night happy hour show, Wakanda Whiskey and Blurdom. I'm your host, Paul, and with me as usual is my partner in crime, Mark.
What's going on? What's going on? Happy New
What's up,
Year
man? How
again
you doing?
to everyone.
And we're here to talk about all things Wakanda, our whiskey, and whatever else goes through our whiskey-addled minds. So with that, what you sipping on, bro?
Well, a couple of months ago, I had this whiskey called Greenwood 1906. And as those of you who've joined us for a while now, we have been focusing on Black owned whiskey distilleries. The first expression that I had from Greenwood was 1906. I got it because it happened to be in one of my cigar bars. One of the co owners of the shop was in there. The bartenders knew that I'm into whiskey. They introduced me to the dude. Went immediately to the store, bought the 1906. It had dual significance for me. They have another expression, which is their what is it called? Their handcrafted rye collection. This is just their regular Greenwood, right? And I've mentioned before that I'm typically not a rye guy, simply because some of the ryes that I've had out there they tend to be kind of harsh. They definitely put a burn in your chest. But I have found some that are not as strong, so to speak. The 1906, I've been sipping on that since I opened it that first time, and it's grown on me. This will be my first time trying this one. Let's see here. I opened it up about 5 minutes ago to let it breathe a little bit. Let's see what we got here. Okay. It's got a very floral smell to it. Okay, yeah. This is good. This is good. Now, what I do when we're doing this, when I drink, I'll put in an ice cube, one of these large ice cubes. But jolly old Saint Nick was good to me, and some of my family members bought me a bunch of different whiskey related items. Among those are some whiskey bullets. And instead of putting an ice cube in there, which as we know,
Bullets!
and it, kind of dilutes the flavor of whatever it is that you're drinking. These whiskey bullets, they've got whiskey stones. All you do is you just put them in the freezer. They get cold. You put them in your drink. You don't have to worry about it diluting the flavor of the alcohol whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop me a couple of those in there and continue to sip throughout the night. So that's it. So I'm drinking this Greenwood. Again, Greenwood is Black owned. You should be able to find it hopefully in your local spirits store. So yeah.
Well, you said it was good, but you didn't say why it was good. What did you like
Oh
about it?
well, for one thing, it's not as harsh as some of the other ryes that I've talked about in the past. It's got a very sweet first note to it. One of my favorite whiskeys is Jameson's, and I love Irish whiskeys because they tend to be sweeter. This one, when it initially hits the tongue, has a sweet taste to it. It does have a little bit of kick to it, but it's not overpowering. It's not overpoweringly strong. So I'm definitely enjoying this.
Want to say that what's up to everybody in our chat? Bot Boy versus. He says, smash all those likes. Look, if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy what you're seeing, if you enjoy our programming we have on Black Comic Lords, please just do us the honor and please hit the like button, hit the share button, share it on your other socials. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. It helps our algorithm and helps us to keep this show going. So with that, what's up to Pericles Dragon Ball? Bo Big in the house, Hard Knock Life, and Gordon Mahan, who was a big winner of our recent giveaway. What's up to all y'all, man? Glad y'all are here tonight. For me, keeping with our theme of rye whiskey,
And this just
I've
happened to be a coincidence. This wasn't intentional tonight.
well, they didn't need to know that. I mean, they could have made it sound more professional and prepared.
It is professionally just fortuitous.
Sure. We've had Uncle Nearest on the show before. I've had the two previous versions. Um, this is the third version. I think there's only three. If there's more, I don't know. There's probably more high end stuff that I'm unaware of. But this is the straight rye version. The solicit says this was a lofty experiment that worked. The results of this 100% rye mash bill matured and used Uncle Nearest barrels before being bottled at 100 proof keeps with our tradition of creating some of the most rewarded whiskeys in the world. This is rye whiskey, elevated, hitting every mark with its rich flavor, profile, incredible balance of spices, and extraordinarily smooth finish. It says the nose and decadent with notes of praline, nutmeg, and white pepper. The palate brimming with light vanilla cream, caramelized sugar, and the unmistakable spice of rye. The finish, long, rich, and well balanced. Well, let's see. I
What
popped this open about 10 minutes ago to let it breathe a bit.
While he's pouring that, one of the things that's interesting is when you go to the liquor store and you go to the whiskey selection, it seems to be that most whiskey distilleries have their ryes with a green label. For example, I don't know if you'll be able to tell this one, but obviously this is a green label. Their label is white, but most other ryes that I've seen have a green label, so they're just doing their own unique thing. It seems like.
Well, you do certainly smell the caramel. I don't smell the praline, nutmeg, and white pepper. Maybe some vanilla, though. Let's give it a taste. First thing you notice, very smooth. You do note the light vanilla cream, the caramel sugar, the spiciness of the rye. It's all there. It's
Jeez.
definitely all there. Not a huge burn, but I mean, for 100 proof, not a tremendous burn.
Let's see what this proof is.
This is pretty nice. I
This
could probably
is
have this with one ice cube, one small ice cube. You might want to do a couple drops of water just to open it up a little bit more, but this is nice.
this Greenwood is 84 proof. And for those who don't know, we've mentioned it here before, so briefly, Uncle Nearest was a real person. His name was Nearest Green. He was an enslaved person who literally taught Jack Daniels, the person, how to make whiskey. So fast forward, the past 10 years ago, a young lady by the name of Fawn Weaver basically created the Uncle Nearest brand of whiskey. And it has been very popular for the past 5 or 6 years. I mean, hats off to her, mad shout out to her and her team. They have really entered the marketplace for spirits with a full force. Something that I just learned a couple of weeks ago is not only have are they in the spirit realm, that's kind of weird, but in the spirits space, about a couple of weeks ago, they bought an actual winery in France. So they are really expanding their brand. They're really expanding their imprint on liquor. And I really have much respect for Fawn Weaver and the Uncle Nearest team. Mad shout out to them.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we have completed our whiskey introduction portion. And now it's time for Wakanda.
This
Now,
rye is really good. Let me just go back to this. This is really good. Like I said, I'm typically not a fan of rye. This is really good.
it's not often you say that, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Mad shout out to the crew over at Greenwood. I'm impressed with this.
Black Panther does not come out this week. It does come out next week. And there was a post that was put on our page showing some previews of the upcoming book. Let's take a look at that. Here we go. Oh, what just happened? Oh, man, the whole page reset. Give me a second. Sorry about that.
While he's doing that in the comments, for those of you who are actually reading Dr. Ewing's run on Black Panther, what are you thinking about it? I am enjoying it. I've seen some comments on the socials that some people are, some people are not. It's not as reviled as the last iteration of Black Panther. In fact, I've not seen anybody denigrate the book the way that they did the last volume of it. But, I'm not going to say it's hit or miss, but you either like it or you don't. But I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Yeah, I seem to be having some technical difficulties here. But I'm getting there. Just give me a sec. But as you can see, the upcoming issue, if you read the last issue, you know that Black Panther is trying to track down some information and goes to the house of the St. Croix family, specifically the home of Monet St. Croix, which we all know of as M of the X-Men. One of the most powerful X-Men, in fact.
What is
One
her
of the
power
most powerful. Everything. She's perfect. She can fly. She's invulnerable. She's strong. She has telepathy and telekinesis. She basically is a hodgepodge of every cool power set that you can have. And she's drop dead gorgeous.
When did she make her first appearance? Do you recall?
It was in Generation X issue number. Oh, crud. I should know this off the top of my head. It's in Generation X. I can tell you that.
See, I never collected that book, so I was not as familiar with her. I never collected.
It's a little confusing. Her background is confusing because she has two sisters, and I don't want to get into it, but there's an issue as to whether her sisters who had merged to become a version of her, and she was lost in like this limbo area, and she was actually in the body of Penance, and long story short, they all merged into one being that she is now. It's a mess. It's a mess. She also has the Penance persona, which is diamond hard skin with razor claws, a bestial form that she can turn into as well.
Now, when you say Penance, I think of basically Speedball, the guy who
it's another Penance. I know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, this is a different Penance.
Okay.
All right. So here's the cover. You know what's interesting when you look at this cover, she's tremendously powerful. She's her strength level is far above T'Challa's. If you notice, she's not punching him; she's shoving him. Look at the open hand that she has. She's got her fist ready, but she's merely just shoving him with the hand, which is good for him because just shoving him with the hand, he still's got to use his shield, and he's still getting blown back into a wall that shatters. That's how strong she is. So that's very telling. So go to the first panel of the preview. It says, and this is after he's broken into her home and she's found him. He goes,
In
Miss
fact,
Saint,
the
what?
last page, I'm sorry, but the last page of the last issue was her coming into her family home and T'Challa sitting there. Sorry about that.
All right. So remember, I mentioned that she also has the persona of penance, which has these razor sharp claws. If you look at her left hand here, that's her using multiple powers at the same time. Her eyes are lit up. The yellow eyes is her penance persona, and her hand is also reminiscent of her penance persona. So she's switching from one power set to the other. And he goes, Miss St. Croix, I meant no disrespect in your father's home. I am here on urgent business, but I must confess that I am surprised to see you. Aren't mutants global fugitives meant to be imprisoned on sight? See Fall of X. Because if you read the X-Men, you know that the X-Men have had a falling out with Orcus. Orcus has made all mutants on the entire planet Earth outlaws. It's illegal, basically, to be a mutant and on the planet Earth. So this is what T'Challa's referencing. So she snaps back at him. Certainly, I was alerted that one of the psionic barriers I have placed upon all of my family's properties had been breached, so I came straight away. I'm not supposed to be here, but more importantly, she goes, you're an imposter and you're trespassing.
Wait, so is she Wakandan or no?
No, she's
So she just has a house there.
She's Algerian. She's Algerian. Um, like her father's black Algerian, her mother's white European. She goes, you're an imposter and you're trespassing. Now, what does this mean? She immediately thinks Black Panther is an imposter because they're in Wakanda. This is a house that's in Wakanda that she owns. Black Panther from the last run became an exile. So everyone knows Black Panther's not supposed to be in Wakanda anymore. But there's this, since T'Challa in this run has been going around burning T'Chaka, he's been the boogeyman at night. And people are like, oh, there's this guy running around in a Black Panther costume trying to be the next Black Panther. And that's the persona, that's the perception, that's the mythos that he's created in BT by, donning this new costume and fighting bad guys in the night.
So a lot of people don't know that it's the real
Correct.
exile king.
Which, although it's confusing because in the Avengers run, he's wearing the exact same costume. So,
and everybody knows that it's the real Black Panther in the Avengers. Right. I just read that earlier.
Then it says, he goes, I am the Black Panther. Now, no step I take on Wakandan land can ever be trespass. And she goes, the disgraced king exiled, and Wakanda has gone to seed charlatans pretending to be the Miss St. Croix. Please stop this nonsense. And we can talk. I believe we want the same thing. Understand, she went for like a death blow. He dodges it, as you can see, because there's no blood on her claws. Now, the question is, if she cuts him, can her claws cut his suit? Because remember, we interviewed Eve Ewing and asked her, although his suit is not, nanites and all powerful like his last suit, is it vibranium weave? And she said, yes, she confirmed it is vibranium. So it does offer him some protection, but it doesn't offer him protection against her diamond, not diamond, but razor sharp claws.
Here's what's crazy though. Go back to what you said about what he was saying, and is that wherever he sets foot in Wakanda is not a trespass. Now, if you're out in the city proper or whatever, okay, yeah, you're the former ruler, blah, blah, blah. but he's in a private residence. Think about that for a second. I mean, I know they don't have the Fourth Amendment over there, but I mean, you got the former ruler of the nation saying, "Yeah, wherever I want to be is where I want to be, and we're all good to go. It's not trespass." No, bro, you in my house. Damn if this ain't a trespass. Get your ass out. Yes, that's a trespass. That's kind of arrogant on his part.
It is. This is
I'm
this
just
these are
saying.
the lessons that he's learning from his walkabout in being, in BT right now.
But not in a damn private house. Come on now.
And that's what she says. She goes, "This is still my house."
Let's not
And
read the
he
whole thing.
and he
Let's read the
slashes
whole
her. Now look at her claws. It looks like that she cuts his costume. If you look at the stuff on her claws. And then he punches her back. "This is still my country. We can end this, Monet. Yield." And then he shoves her. Oh, he not shoves her. He throws a knife at her, one of his vibranium daggers.
Don't read the whole thing.
So, what's interesting is the dialogue in this. This sounds like T'Challa. It doesn't sound like the last run, whoever that guy was. This sounds and acts like T'Challa.
A man in charge, somebody who's regal, someone
Right.
who is used to being obeyed and doing whatever he wants to do as the long term ruler of an entire nation. The
But is
last
not
one,
but
that
also
dude,
not reactionary. He's like trying to talk her down, which is something T'Challa does. He's not a reactionary guy. He's very measured in everything he does. So and he's confident. That's something that was severely lacking in the last run.
yeah, the
He's
last dude
confident.
was unsure of himself and just he was soft. There's no other way to say it. The last dude was soft.
Someday we'll find out what dimension that last run took place in.
I was sitting up here thinking about that, and I hate the fact that it's canon because you and I have said many times in this space that the last run, that guy was not the real guy. Other
No.
persons in that book, for example, Steve Rogers, Captain America, the way they had those two guys interacting with each other, that's not how either one of those characters typically act. And it's as if the writer of that last volume had no idea who those characters were, what they were about. And it's a shame because we literally had that run started in 2022. So we're talking about a year and a half going on 2 years ago where that run was going on. And it's a shame that that's part of the canon and lore of this character because yeah, it was just bad.
Oh, snap. So, oh my God. I didn't realize you guys, Bo Big says you guys couldn't see the pages I was sharing. Ah, man. So I just went through all that and you guys
Well,
couldn't
I
see
mean,
it.
people will see it. I mean, it's a
Let me
solicit.
just share it real quick. I apologize. I didn't see the comment. See if I can make this work. Ah, crap. It reset again.
Yeah, you guys will see it. The book will come out in a couple of weeks.
Can you see the pages now?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you
All
see
right.
the cover, and then you saw a couple of the other interior
Here's the
pages.
page.
Yeah,
Here's her hand that's morphed into the penance hand. Here's the eyes of penance. Then she goes into full penance mode. Then she strikes him, or she lunges at him. He dodges. He's trying to talk her down. She cuts him in the back, and then he punches her in the face. And then he throws a vibranium dagger at her. So
yeah.
that's Black Panther 8 coming out next week, next Wednesday.
We talk about her, and this is kind of a digression, but we talk about her and all the multiple powers that she has. A lot of folks, for me, over in DC, the one of the most strongest characters that's out there is Martian Manhunter, John Jones. When you think about that character, and I know it's a digression, so forgive me, but this dude has super strength. He can fly. He can be intangible. He can be invisible. He has telepathy. He's got eye beams. Oh, and by the way, he can change into anybody or anything that he wants. That's 7 powers.
You forgot his telepathy.
I mentioned that. If I
Oh,
didn't, I meant to. But yeah, he's got telepathy as well. You, Martian
But if
Manhunter.
you pull out a matchstick, he cringes.
Have they retconned that or whatever? Because the fire aspect of his weakness is kind of stupid. But John Jones, Martian Manhunter, is one of the most badass superheroes that's out there. And I don't think that he gets the due that he deserves when you look at his power set.
Yeah. Chris Balcalo drew Generation X, Still Bartis. Very much so. Pericles makes an interesting statement. Weirdly enough, part of me is starting to see T'Challa and Monet together. They would make a cute couple, except for the fact that, T'Challa's been around in Marvel years, probably a good 20 years at this point, 15, 20 years. From the time that he became king and joined the Avengers to now, it's probably been in Marvel years, probably a good 15 to 20 years. Monet
616 T'Challa is probably about 40.
Yeah, he's probably close to 40. Monet started in Generation X as a teenager because they were all kids going to school at Xavier's. They were the next New Mutants, basically. So she's probably in her early to probably mid-20s at this point.
Perfect age. She's grown.
So a little bit of a May-December relationship, but
Perfect
I suppose
age.
it's possible. It's kind of weird because Monet was technically a student of Storm, so that'd be kind of
but let's also look at Adam Brashear and Monica Rambeau.
Yeah, but Adam Brashear doesn't age very much.
But Adam is literally like 80 years old, and Monica is probably like 35, 36.
Yeah. All right. So that ends our Wakanda section. And next, we're going to go to Reads of the Week. Before we get to that, little promo.
This is Derek Harrison of Black Comic Lords, and I'm here with Greg Burnham. You might know him from Tuskegee Airs. He's got several other titles, and this is a new one that's coming out in November.
November 22nd, Little Rock Files. It was a story that we originally did in Noir is the New Black, which is an awesome anthology y'all need to get if you don't have it. But we did a 6-pager in there, and we ended up getting asked to do a full book. So the interiors, I'm holding this one. These are 2 of the covers. The interiors are being done by Quinn McGowan, who did this book. Who did this poster cover, and then Marcus Williams, my co-creator on Tuskegee Airs, he did the art for this cover, and we also put like our original 6 pages in the book, just so you can have everything that we've done so far. It's a 1980s noir detective story that takes place in Little Rock, Arkansas. We actually put some reference some real things that were going on back in the time as far as the drug trade and dirty governors that turned into presidents, but that's a different story. So yeah, check it out, November 22nd. It will be in comic shops. If your shop didn't order it originally, get in there and ask them to get you a copy. We're trying to do some really good stuff with this book, and we appreciate you.
And we're back. Shout out to Greg Burnham. He and Duran Flood from our community are putting together Atlantic Comic Con August 17th through 18th. I'm sure it's going to be a really dope event. I'm going to try and go myself. It's going to be in Norfolk, Virginia. So, what books do we got coming up that we were going to talk about today? Blade number 7. What'd you think of this book?
Okay, so the overall book is great. this specific issue for me was one of the lesser issues in the run. It wasn't horrible, but it was not as good as the other issues to me.
It
Still
was a
good,
one shot. It was basically a one shot.
yeah, I guess, yeah. It's issue 6 was spectacular in the overall story and everything that was involved. For those who don't know, in issue 6, Blade is fighting this supernatural creature who basically whooped his ass, right? And so, in order to get more powerful, he goes to Dracula and asks for assistance and how to become more powerful, more stronger, and able to fight this supernatural creature. That interaction between the two of them in that issue number 6, spectacular. In this issue, um, it's cool, and he touches on some of the power that he learned from Dracula a little bit. It's okay. I mean, this issue is okay. I'm still loving the book. It doesn't detract from the overall story. Somebody special makes, well, you can see on the cover of the book that that's the Incredible Hulk right there. So Bruce Banner makes his appearance in this book. In the last pages of issue number 6, Bruce calls Blade, says, "Hey, I need your assistance for whatever he's dealing with," and so Blade hops on his motorcycle or whatever and goes there to try to assist. Again, it is cool, it is good, but it's not to me as good as the other issues. Gordon says he loves this issue, and that's great. For me, it was okay. It wasn't a meh, it wasn't a bad. It just was not as good as the other issues in this run.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a one shot. Although it does have some minor ties to the ongoing storyline from issues 1 through 6, where Blade is trying to find ways to defeat the Adana that he accidentally released into the world. This is a very self-contained story. I mentioned this in the Wednesday wrap-up show. If you have not read this series already, this would be a great singular issue to have that you could read without having any of the backstory and still get it. It's still a very good story. What's most interesting is in the last couple issues of Blade before this, you see Blade starts to take lessons from Dracula as to how to use his powers. Excuse me. And in this issue, you see him perform a feat that you haven't previously seen him do. Explore more of his power set. And I think that's really cool because Blade's been around a long time. I mentioned this before with regard to the fact that, he's probably a good 200 years old or so. And he's been fighting things that go bump in the night all that time. And in the Miles Morales run, you saw that he has access to various objects of the arcane
Knickknacks
that
and
he
bric-a-bracs.
employs. Huh?
Knickknacks and bric-a-bracs.
Yeah, stuff that he can employ, magical items, and he hangs out with Doctor Strange. Excuse me. So it stands to reason that he pick up a couple tricks up his sleeve. So between expanding upon his vampiric powers and all the items of the occult that he's picked up over the years, there's a lot of potential for Blade to do other things that he's never done before. Just be a more generalized, monster hunter. And I really hope that they can explore more and more of that for him in his future. This Brian Edward Hill is writing the script for a Blade movie, and I hope someone at Marvel will pay attention and consult with him on a script for a Blade movie someday.
For those who don't know, Brian Hill will be writing the ultimate Black Panther story when it drops sometime this year.
Yeah.
As a brief digression, I read The Ultimate Spider-Man by Hickman. Oh my God, that book was so good. Have you read it?
No.
Oh my God, Hickman is right now the best comic book writer out there. All due respect to everybody else, but
He really is good.
his work across different titles is consistently solid. And for those who don't know, back around, what was it, 2005-ish or so, the Ultimate line of comic books came out, where basically you are being reintroduced to characters that we already know about: Spider-Man, the Avengers, X-Men, etc. And they're telling stories that we've already seen to a certain degree, but in a new and more interesting way. So that way, if you were a new comic book collector or reader at that time, you didn't have to know 30, 40, 50 years of history in order to jump on board. You could just pick up Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men, etc., and be right in the thick of things. Well, that universe kind of went away around what year, if you
I
know?
don't. Well, technically, it didn't end
It
until
didn't really go away, but they really stopped printing Ultimate books.
2000 and not 15. When did they do that storyline? The Secret Wars. The Secret Wars was the end of the universe.
Okay, so that was around 18 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the different titles under the Ultimate banner, when they did the Secret Wars storyline, the more recent Secret Wars storyline, the Ultimate Universe kind of folded into the 616 to a certain degree. And we didn't have any more Ultimate books. Well, they are relaunching the Ultimate line of books, and Ultimate Spider-Man came out first. Very extremely, extremely good book.
In fact, here's the bigger thing, just to give context to people that haven't read it. If you read the Ultimate Comics, you're reading the run written by Hickman that ultimately formed the framework for the MCU. The MCU is based on Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Comics.
Even though it doesn't have the same number or whatever the case may be. Now, they've kind of retconned the MCU to be 616 to coincide with Marvel 616, which is the main continuity of comic books. But there was a point in time that it has some different number, like 1999, whatever.
It's 1610.
1610
is the Ultimate Universe.
Now, the reason why Paul said that is, as we all know, who are longtime comic book fans, specifically Marvel, Nick Fury has always been a white guy. He was played by David Hasselhoff in a 1990s movie that like 10 people saw in the theater, right? Well, in the Marvel Ultimate Universe, Nick Fury was no longer a white dude. It was a black dude who was based on Samuel L. Jackson, which is who we got in the live action version in 2008 at the end credit scene of Iron Man. So that's why Paul said that the Marvel universe is based on the Ultimate Universe. That's why.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. There are a lot of titles in there. The Ultimate Universe is where we got Miles Morales, and I know that he's the flavor of the month right now. But he made his first appearance in Ultimate Fallout #4, which was basically some big, battle. And I think it was the death of Peter Parker in that universe. And that's why he made his appearance. So there's a lot of good stuff over there in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, and if you also read that last Secret Wars run, specifically issues 8 and 9. In issue 8, you see T'Challa use his power as King of the Dead, which is fantastic, but also wield the Infinity Gauntlet. And then issue 9, not only do you see T'Challa reinvent the 616 universe using the Infinity Gauntlet. So if you like your current 616 universe that you read in Marvel Comics every week, you can thank T'Challa for that.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, Secret Wars #9 is the very first introduction of Miles Morales into the 616 universe.
Yeah. Ultimate Fallout #4 is his first appearance ever, but the Secret Wars #9 is him being introduced into the 616. And so he's kind of a mainstay in the 616 now. So you've got 2.5 Spider-Men. You got Peter Parker, the OG. You got Miles Morales. And Ben Reilly, one of Peter's clones, is out there and about. But yeah, that was a brief digression. What's book #2?
Next, we have... What is book #2?
Well,
Luke Cage.
Yep.
Gang
All right.
War, number 3.
So if you are not reading Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man, Peter Parker, back in the 1990s, there was a storyline called Gang War, where I don't remember the entire storyline of it, but basically you had all the, New York in the Marvel universe is rife with gangs, right? With wannabe hoods or whatever the case may be. Well, they're reintroducing a story like that involves gangs. And in the Spider-Man comic book, Robbie Robertson, who was the number two over at, I almost said the Daily Planet, but the Bugle, which is J. Jonah Jameson's newspaper, he has a son. His son, Robbie Robertson's son, married this chick who is the daughter of a bad guy by the name of Tombstone, right? He knows that his fiance is a bad person. And by that, I mean she's a crook, she's a thief. Sometime, I don't know if she's actually murdered anybody, but she's a felon. Maybe convicted, maybe not. But he knows that she's a bad person, but he still loves her nonetheless. The heart wants what the heart wants. And so at their wedding, her father was attacked, and he was in charge of Harlem. And so this basically sets off a gang war because nobody was supposed to be attacking anybody. There was, kind of like the Cold War where everybody knew that they were enemies, but nobody was attacking anybody. When Tombstone was attacked and almost killed, this set off everybody trying to carve out bigger pieces of territory so they could make more money. And New York right now in the Marvel Universe is an entire war zone. Oh, by the way, Luke Cage, aka Power Man, aka Sweet Christmas, aka wearing a metal tiara with a silk shirt from the '70s, yellow silk shirt. He is actually the mayor of New York right now. Wilson Fisk, the kingpin, was the mayor. He had to go away, but Luke Cage is now the mayor. And so, because of certain things that the Wilson Fisk did, vigilantes are no longer allowed in New York City proper. Wilson Fisk outlawed them. So if you are a costume hero like Captain America, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, etc., you are prohibited by law from trying to help and save people. Well, this war has all of those superheroes basically violating law, kind of like a civil war. If you remember the Civil War storyline in Marvel, it's somewhat similar, except it's only unique to New York City proper, not the entire United States. And so Luke Cage is playing double duty. During the daytime, he's trying to run the municipality of New York, trying to get everything under control. But then at nighttime, he's created this new persona. He hasn't given it a name, but you see him with a mask. That's something Luke Cage never did before. He's always been open about who he was, black and proud. You can see his face. Now, as you see in the cover of this, he's wearing a mask, right? Because of the law that prevents him from being a vigilante. He violates that on a regular, consistent basis because at the end of the day, if you are a hero, you're not doing it for glamour, money, fame. You're doing it to help people. And that's what he's wanting to do. So all the different boroughs of New York are controlled by different gangs. And it's just a war zone because this person is attacking this person, trying to get more territory so they can make more money, et cetera, et cetera. So Luke is, burning the candle at both ends, trying to control the city and preventing it from exploding even more so than it has. I am enjoying this storyline. I'm enjoying Luke Cage in this manner. I'm a huge fan of Luke Cage, Power Man. I'm missing of all the Luke Cage Power Man OG books, not the stuff that's happened in the 2000s, but going back to the 1970s across, Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, Power Man, and Iron Fist. I'm missing, I want to say, about 7 issues all told. I'm a huge fan of Luke Cage. Love the series. I actually like this book. I know a lot of people are not as enamored with the current ongoing Spider-Man storyline. I as a longtime fan, am enjoying it. I like Peter Parker as a character, and I am enjoying this book because I like seeing Luke Cage, trying to be the man in charge as far as a bureaucrat, but also how he's trying to help fight for his city and save people.
Yeah, I mean, this is written by Rodney Barnes of Philadelphia. Shout out to Rodney Barnes, probably one of the best comic book writers in the world right now. I had to do a dramatic pause because that needs to sink in. He's one of the best comic book writers in the world right now. I wasn't as enamored with the storyline as Mark for two reasons. One, the main gang war storyline has the stuff that I wanted to be in this book. I want to see more of the myriad of gangs that are out there. I mean, we've got Tombstone, you've got Black Mariah's out there,
Adam Mask, Hammerhead.
Right. Yeah, you've got all these very colorful gang leaders all vying for control of New York. I want to see them in this book, and all we've got is the Spider Spasher, which I could care less about Alistair Smythe.
And let me say this, let me just interject, and I apologize for interrupting, but all of this is happening because Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, had to go on the run. Understand that the city of New York was controlled with an iron fist, no pun intended, by Wilson Fisk. He ran New York, okay? Not the mayor, not the governor, whoever it was. Wilson Fisk. Everybody paid homage to him. One thing about nature abhors a vacuum. When Wilson Fisk had to abandon his throne as the Kingpin of New York, everybody else is vying for the title. And that's why you have this gang war. One of the things, getting into politics very briefly, this is why America props up certain dictators, because we know that's, somebody that we can control or whatever the case may be. And if that particular person is in charge, everything will go to hell. Well, that's kind of what Kingpin Wilson Fisk was. He kept everything and everyone in line. Everybody was able to make their money doing whatever illicit deals and nefarious dealings that they had. They all had to kick up a taste to him. But once he had to abandon New York, everything went to hell. And so this is why we have the gang war that we currently do. Shout out to my frat brother Rob.
I really wanted the characters that were in the main gang war storyline, the ones I mentioned previously. I wanted Rodney Barnes to be able to write those characters. I wanted to see him give voice to those characters in this storyline with Luke Cage. Having him go up against Comanche again. Other characters from Luke Cage's past. That's what's missing for me. That, and I just don't like the mask.
For me, I don't like the old school villains or rogues gallery that Luke had. I like him trying to balance a budget. You know what I'm saying? And trying to get the cops to do whatever they need to do, and for the sanitation workers not to go on strike, and things of that nature. And oh, by the way, he's still a husband and father, and also he's a super strong dude who's trying to prevent his city from going to heck. My boy Rodney Singleton, who's watching, shout out to him, is actually a New York resident right now. And he sent me a text message saying that they could use somebody like Luke Cage up in New York right now. So, thought that was
I mean, as I said, I would have loved to have seen Rodney Barnes be able, and I know it's probably not his decision because those characters have already been slated for those other books. And that was the only detractor for me, is because with the characters he has, the dialogue and repartee between Luke Cage and his wife, Jessica Jones, and Danny Rand, that repartee is excellent. I mean, you can feel the history between these characters and the way that Rodney Barnes writes them. And that's just because he's Rodney Barnes, he's an excellent writer. I just wish he had added access to those other characters in the storyline.
In the main, Spider-Man title, let me rephrase that. In the Peter Parker Spider-Man title, Tombstone has, over the past year and a half, 2 years, been a very focal point
Right.
in that book.
And he's been
And
good. He's been written well.
he's been really, really, really good. For those who don't know, Tombstone, I can't remember his name off the top of his God-given name, not James,
Lonnie something.
Lonnie something. I don't know if you have that picture that I
Lincoln.
sent.
Lonnie Lincoln.
Lonnie Lincoln, yes. Basically, he's a dude who is an albino, but he's super strong, and he's a fighter, and he has carved out his criminal empire, I want to say in the Harlem area of New York. And he is an extremely interesting character. And for me, it's interesting how both two of the three major comic book characters have an albino crime lord. Over here in Marvel, we've got Tombstone. Over in DC, we have Tobias Whale, who was played expertly in the Black Lightning live action series by the guy by the name of Crondon. He made the Black Lightning series. That's a digression, I understand, but I just think it's interesting how both companies have a crime lord who just so happens to be an albino.
Yeah.
Did you put up? I don't know if you did or not. If you pulled up that picture that I sent you about a dude who I've felt would be a good fan cast, there's a show that I'll probably mention. I sent it to you DM. There's a show that I've mentioned before called The Man in the High Castle. It is an alt-war storyline on Amazon Prime where America lost World War II. Japan and the Axis powers, Japan and Germany, basically won World War II. And in one of the episodes, I saw this kid by the name of Sean Ross, I believe, who is an albino actor. And I fan cast him in the role of Tombstone. I think he would be pretty good in that role. He's a pretty decent actor. Doesn't have a lot of credits under his belt, but from what I saw from him in Man in the High Castle, I think that he would be a good choice for that if he was ever brought to live action.
Is he a big guy? Because Tombstone's a big guy. Is he a big guy?
So Tombstone is probably roughly around 6'3", 6'4". He's not that. I'll say that.
Well, that's not going to work unless they do that Tom Cruise thing and do all the camera angles to make him look 6 feet tall.
You know, I don't know how many albino actors are out there. So, but that aside, I think that he, his stature aside, you could very well make it work. I mean, hell, you mentioned Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise played Jack Reacher, very well. If you weren't familiar with the source material of the book, he did a good job. Now, in reference to Alan Richardson, not so much, now that we have something to compare him to. But for a first appearance of that character live action, I think Sean would do a good job.
All right, next book that we have.
I mentioned Timeless.
Indeed.
So this is another Luke Cage book, right? So I don't know if you consider this an alt-war story. One of the things that's interesting about comic books when it comes to chronology is that you will have a story that's set in the far distant future. And so when you read that story, you don't necessarily know if that future will come to pass. In this Timeless book, and there are several different Timeless books, they are one-shots. The first Timeless book that I'm aware of involved Kang the Conqueror. I read it about, when it first came out about a year ago, and unfortunately I can't remember that storyline. But there are other one-shot Timeless books, this being the second, to my understanding. And in this book, Luke Cage is in the far distant future where he is the last hero on Earth. The Egyptian god Khonshu, who we all know from Moon Knight, who's the god for Moon Knight is his avatar, has basically taken over planet Earth. And Luke Cage, Power Man, is trying to prevent him, Khonshu, from destroying the world. I'm not going to tell you who all is in the book. I thought it was an interesting story. But with Luke Cage, he's got several different powers. He literally has the power of the Iron Fist. He has some sentry juice in him. Sentry being Bob Reynolds, the 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 Marvel version of Superman, and he also has some Hulk juice in him as well. So you can imagine he's pretty powerful, right? But he's going up against Khonshu, who is a literal god, and Luke Cage, at the end of the day, is a mortal man. So how is that battle going to go? What is he going to do to overcome this literal god? I thought it was interesting. I thought it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. Again, I personally am a huge Luke Cage fan, so that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it.
What I found interesting is you had Luke Cage unfettered. Now, I'm going to say something that may be somewhat controversial. I don't have Derek to do my disclaimer video, but it's almost like you asked the question, is this an alternate future? Almost as a what if story. What if Luke Cage had never settled down and become a family man? And he simply, relentlessly just focused on becoming a more powerful superhero.
But he mentioned
because there was no mention of his wife and his child.
There
really.
was. Well, there was a mention of Jessica. So, the way I read it.
But all right, she wasn't in the story. She wasn't in the story.
Correct. So the way I interpret it is everybody was killed.
Everybody was killed. But it's kind of like it raised the question for me, what would have happened if Luke Cage never settled down and became a family man? How powerful would he have become? What decisions would he have made? Would he have had the same personality? Would he have morphed into the guy that we learned to later become more of a leader? Because settling down allowed him to become the head of the Avengers, allowed him to become mayor of New York, allowed him to become a successful businessman. One could argue. But if he hadn't made that choice and he was more of the self-serving hero for hire type guy who would kick your ass over being owed $200, what would he have become?
Dude, he'd still be living above the damn theater. That's what I think. He would have been a perennial bachelor, sitting up here saying "Sweet Christmas," trying to get laid whenever he could, and just been, a habitual bachelor. That's what I think. So
he'd be you.
Him getting married to Jessica and having a daughter has made him grow as a character and go in a different direction. Because Paul,
no doubt.
If he didn't do these things, I've never been married. Paul's married for 15 whatever years, has a kid. His life is different than it would be if he were still a single man. Right, the decisions that he makes. For those of you people who are out there in committed relationships who are married, if you're still watching, his life, I'm sure, is different than what it would be. And so it's interesting as a comic book reader to see characters grow. They're not static. One of the things about Peter Parker, dude is static. Let's just be clear about that. He was related. He was married to MJ for a period of time, had a kid, but all of that was undone. So we're still dealing with I'm not going to call him a ne'er-do-well, but the kind of flighty Peter Parker. That's one of the things, going back to the Ultimate Spider-Man. The Ultimate Spider-Man in that book, that Peter Parker, is not the Peter Parker in the main 616.
The Peter Parker in the Ultimate comic, in the Ultimate Peter Parker is Tom Holland.
Ultimate Peter Parker is married with kids, right? Regular Peter Parker is just a dude who's out there, trying to live up to the memory of his dead uncle. Mm-hmm. I like the character. I've liked the character, loved the character for 40 years. But, we kind of keep seeing the same old thing with this dude. He can never get ahead. If he does get ahead, he comes back down to the bottom. I just want him to be a success. But bringing this back to Luke Cage, his relationship with Jessica Jones and them having a child, building a family together, has made him has given writers opportunities to put him in scenarios that we would not have seen him in otherwise. And I do enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dope book. Dope book. All right. So that ends our comic book portion.
Whoop, 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 whoop. I have one more.
Oh, you have another one? What is that? Oh, Waller versus Wildstorm. I haven't read issue 4 yet.
Okay. Issue 5 I think is going to be coming out pretty soon. Um Again, I don't know if this one is considered an alt world story. This book is magazine size. It's bigger than your normal.
I have this cover.
Okay. It's bigger than your regular, comic book size. It's called magazine size, right? Over in DC, one of the most important characters is an overweight black woman with a poli sci degree who is a bureaucrat, and that is Amanda Waller. I am a fan of Amanda Waller thanks to Justice League Unlimited, voiced by the phenomenal CCH Pounder. Whenever I read Amanda Waller in anything, in my mind's ear, that's who I hear. I hear CCH Pounder, right? In Waller versus Wildstorm, Amanda Waller is a low-level bureaucrat. And through her machinations, through her intelligence, through her ambition, she is climbing up the ladder to become a very powerful, very important person in DC. It seems as if Waller versus Wildstorm is a look back at how she became the person that she is now. If you're reading the Teen Titans books over in DC and the Beast World storyline, Amanda Waller features prominently in that. And it seems as if this book, Waller v. Wildstorm, tells us, the reader, how she even got to be in a position to make the decisions that she does on behalf of the United States government. She's not drawn in a manner that you would think that she is an attractive person like, say, Wonder Woman or any other superhero out there. But I admire the fact that she has achieved based on intellect and determination. And I really have a great deal of respect and admiration for that. I'm really enjoying the Waller versus Wildstorm book. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give the book an 8. I love the story, love the art. And it also includes one of my top 5 favorite characters, who is Deathstroke. Um, yeah, it's 4. What were we? 4 issues in. Yeah, we're 4 issues in. Highly recommend this book as well. So
I've
you've read
enjoyed
one
the
through 3?
series in large part because I was a big fan of the 90s Image universe, of which, Wildstorm was a part of, specifically Stormwatch with Battalion, who's one of the main characters in this Wildstorm book. And it's a retelling or reimagining of Amanda Waller's background, um, weaving it into the Wildstorm universe as part of it. And it's a cool background because I don't know if we've really ever gotten a deep origin story like we have. I know there was an Amanda Waller series, a limited series, where they had a younger, thinner version of her. But this is kind of cool because it sort of also mixes in how she got into Checkmate and how that eventually, led to other things for her. But you really see the machinations of her mind and how she became who she is. So I thought that was kind of cool.
One of the main things about Amanda Waller back in the 1980s and 90s, she was in charge of what's known as the Suicide Squad. If you watch Justice League, or maybe Justice League Unlimited, I can't remember the episode, but in the episode, you had a bunch of bad guys who had to go up to the Justice League Tower and try to retrieve this robot, basically. Amanda Waller sent him up there. There's also an animated movie called Batman Attack on Arkham or something like that.
Yeah, attack. Wait, assault on all.
Assault on Arkham. Right. So that is also an Amanda Waller story. There's a prison in the DC universe in Louisiana called Belle Reve, and that's where they send the super-powered criminals. Think of the Raft.
What's
Over
up,
in Marvel, it's basically the same thing, right? For them. So, in order to get certain things done for the United States government, and you want to be able to disavow the people who do it, they implant a bomb basically in the brainstem of these bad guys and say, look, you've been sentenced through a court of law for 30 years in prison for your bad deeds. You run so many missions for us, we'll shave X number of years off of your sentence. Oh, by the way, if you mess up, I'm going to push this button and blow your head up. Amanda Waller is in charge of Belle Reve. Now, in the Suicide Squad book of the 1980s, they didn't have the bomb in their head, but she was controlling them she had the ability to control them just through incentives or, carrot and stick. I love Amanda Waller, in a platonic, admiring her way. Amanda Waller is that chick. I really, really love her. I have pretty much all of the original Suicide Squad books. The Suicide Squad movies are okay to me. I think that Viola Davis, who is a phenomenal actress, does good. I personally would have preferred to see CCH Pounder in that role, only because I'm not going to say she originated the role because she didn't, but, for a great number of us, we watched those cartoons, and that's who we listened to when it came to the Dennyverse, which was Batman, the animated series, Superman, Justice League Unlimited. So I wish they would have gotten her. But all that aside, as a character, Amanda Waller is a interesting character to me. You gonna read them out?
Frustrated fan says, I love Will Smith's version of Deadshot. And Jack the Gamer says, oh, wow, so the Suicide Squad game is accurate? Those bomb collars are lore.
Okay, so in the source material, it wasn't collars. They were actual implants in their head. Should have been awesome in the movie. Are you talking about CCH Pounder? One thing that a lot of people mistake is they think that the great Angela Bassett, who was just awarded an Oscar for Lifetime Achievement or whatever, in the Green Lantern movie that came out around 2011, Angela Bassett played a Waller character. She was not, however, Amanda Waller. A lot of people get that confused. She was a Dr. Waller. She was a scientist, not a political scientist, not a bureaucrat, but an actual, scientist. Okay, so she did not play the same character. In live action, we've had 3 different actresses play live action Amanda Waller. Of course, we've had Viola Davis. We had the young lady who was in Spartacus who played the skinny version in the Arrowverse. And the OG, Pam Grier, with her fine self, played Amanda Waller in Smallville. So, yeah.
All right. So, we're going to go to a commercial. And we come back and we're going to get into what you've been watching this week. And there have been a few things that we have been watching. So, let's get to it.
Here's our black real estate and comics. What do I mean? Let's check out Black Panther. He is gone from the MCU for reasons. And what is happening in the comics? We can complain all day about how our champion is being treated, but we don't own that character. Look at Milestone character, curated by one of the greats, Dwayne McDuffie, my guy. But we don't really own or control any of his characters. DC does. So I'll ask again, where is our black real estate in comics? Meet Delta Dogs from Millennial Comics, created and controlled by us, where story sits in the forefront. Delta Dogs is more than just black characters being black for the sake of being black. This story is about 7 cousins that gets into an encounter with a mysterious glowing stranger that changes their lives forever. And with their unique abilities, this family may be the one thing that can save their hood that's being ruled over by a vicious super gang. With an ex-criminal as their leader and other superheroes that looks the other way when it comes to their environment, this will be an impossible mission to pull off. Grab these books in our hardcover Ultimate Edition bundle at millennialcomic.com so we can really have some skin in the game when it comes to the comic book industry. Keep doing y'all thing, Black Comic Lords. Peace.
Jack the Gamer says, I'd love to see Monique in that role. Monique would be an interesting Amanda Waller. I could see that.
Monique needs new management because she constantly shoots herself in the foot. She's an extremely talented actress. She can be. Her stand-up, I've seen her stand-up, but it's not memorable to me. On screen, however, specifically Almost Christmas, I watched that movie right before Christmas. She was hilarious in that movie. Seeing comedians play serious roles, they typically do an extremely good job. You think about Tom Hanks. A lot of people don't realize this, but Tom Hanks started out in comedies. You know, he was in Bosom Buddies on TV, which was a half-hour sitcom for a lot of years. You know, he was in Bachelor Party, et cetera, et cetera. He's considered one of the best actors out there now. Monique, I never saw Precious, but obviously it was great. It got her an Oscar.
A lot of comedians are excellent actors. Eddie Murphy was in
Dreamgirls. He did a
Dreamgirls.
Phenomenal job, and he was robbed.
Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx, actually, he's got an Oscar winner.
Yep.
Will Smith did, comedic acting before he got into serious roles.
He did. That's an inspired bit of fan casting. I never would have considered Monique for Amanda Waller.
Monique could kill that role.
I'm still stuck on CCH Pounder because she doesn't get the amount of work that she deserves.
She's like 75 years old now.
Okay. Still, listen. She's still above ground, can still act.
Monique could do a kick-ass. That's a good casting, dude.
That's interesting. Never would have thought about that.
Monique could kill as Amanda Waller. For real. And we have a super chat, Bo Big, $10 in the house. Thank you very much, sir. Our first super chat of the night. And with that, I would play our super chat video, but Derek always makes things difficult for me. But thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Frustrated fan says, nah, Monique wouldn't capture Waller in the manner you would really want her to.
So did anybody see Precious? I'd never seen Precious. I had no desire to see it. Obviously, she did a good enough job that she was nominated and won the Oscar. How, you got to look at her as a serious person. So, Viola Davis nails it, right? Do you think, in comparison to Viola Davis, what we've seen of her in that role, could you see Monique doing that same thing?
Would I compare Monique to Viola Davis's? Viola Davis, I think, would do it better. Is still a better Amanda Waller. But do I think Monique is capable of doing it? Yeah. But Viola Davis she has that level of ferocity. When you see her in, I think it was Suicide Squad #2, where she's telling the squad to do something they didn't want to do, she gets angry. And she gets, do what I tell you, and she loses her shit. Like, that was a ferocity that Viola Davis could pull off.
But could you see? All right. So, for example, God rest Chadwick Boseman. He's died. A lot of us have said recast T'Challa because we want the character to come back. We fan cast a lot of different actors to play the role of T'Challa. One of the scenes that I think about specifically and who I would want to see play the role is how would they compare to Chadwick Boseman, even though you can't compare actors, but would the new actor be able to invoke certain emotions? And the scene specifically that I think about is when T'Challa's in the spirit realm talking to his father about Killmonger. And when he says, you are wrong, whatever. And it's a very powerful scene. It's a very emotional scene. So I think when I'm fan casting, who could I see doing that? Damson Idris, I could see playing that specific scene. He would kill it. One of the people who's always mentioned is Trevante Rhodes. I cannot see him doing that scene. So with that in mind, what we've seen from Viola Davis and some of her, portrayal of Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad, could you see Monique in those same scenes?
No.
No, really?
Let
me ask you this. Have you seen Precious?
I have not.
Okay. If you've seen Precious mentioned in the chat, because I'm curious. But,
I have seen her do dramatic stuff.
Like what? Because I haven't seen her.
I just can't remember what it was, but I do remember seeing her do some dramatic roles. I do think she would do a good Amanda Waller, but I think I would still prefer Viola Davis's version. But is she capable of doing Amanda Waller? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think she's capable.
I think if who's the guy taking over? James Gunn decides to cast Monique as the new Amanda Waller, I'm not going to be mad at that. I'm not going to be mad at that at all.
The only thing I wish that they would do is give her a short fade. Because whenever I think of Amanda Waller, that's what I think about. I think of her being overweight in those very long skirts with a short fade. And again, when I'm reading these books, I hear CCH Pounder's voice.
I think you have a low key Amanda Waller fetish.
It's not a fetish, but I appreciate an intelligent woman, and Amanda Waller is that chick.
Y'all see what I'm talking about, right? You see what I'm talking about.
Amanda Waller's a tad too big for your boy, but I appreciate the fact that she's smart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amanda Waller's definition of F around and find out. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Did y'all talk about the new Outsiders book? Did I miss it? I hear CCH Pounder too.
I don't read The Outsiders.
I do read Outsiders. It's a great book. I haven't read the latest issue though. I haven't received it yet. I'm getting it in the mail. But that's a dope book. Mark, you should check it out because it stars Luke Fox, formerly Batwing, who gave up that role. He actually formulated a new superhero identity that was something like the Silver Fox or something like that. It was in a Harlequin book.
It seems like I saw him pop up somewhere else, and I'm wondering if
he was recently in the DC last DC Power book. He had a story with him and was it Vixen?
That's what it was.
He's dating Vixen, I think.
Yeah.
That's the last time we saw him prior to this thing with Harlequin, where he's been using his money and his tech to sort of recreate himself, do good in the universe, not as a superhero, but just as a rich guy who has access to technology, who's very smart.
Yeah. I didn't know. Somebody on Twitter told me that one of my favorites, Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific, shows up a lot in The Flash, and I don't read The Flash. Do you read The Flash?
No.
Yeah, me either.
But Michael Holt has been consistently in the Flash book.
And
Mr. Terrific, there's two black characters. There's two black characters DC is promoting really hard right now. Mr. Terrific and Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller is being set up as the big bad of the DC universe, and Mr. Terrific is being set up as kind of the Mary Sue of the DC universe. Every
Mark
time there's
Robinson,
a scientific problem that pops up, Mr. Terrific pops up.
Mark Robinson says, "What I wish they would have done for BP2 was tell the story of the first BP. That's not to say I didn't like BP2, but to give us a break and then recast T'Challa. Personally, I would not have liked that. T'Challa is the main Black Panther. If you wanted to sideline the character by putting him in a coma and
T'Challa's
have
not the main
Shuri,
Black Panther. T'Challa is the Black Panther.
correct. If you wanted to sideline him for a very brief period of time, have Shuri be the focus of Black Panther 2, that would have made sense. And then bring him back in an end credit scene or in other movies. I would have liked that. I would much rather have books about these first Black Panthers or other Black Panthers, but in live action, it needs to be T'Challa.
Azor Beast, you're absolutely right. It's not outsiders. It really is a cross between the planetary and authority. That's a very good analogy. That's exactly what that book is. It's a sci-fi crime noir adventure book. It's not a superhero book, but planetary and authority is pretty spot on in the analysis as to what that book is. Waller Rising book, Paul.
So that was Teen Titans Waller Rising?
Oh, yes.
So that's what okay, yeah, because I have that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good book. Did you read that book?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, got it.
So,
Titans Beast World, Waller Rising.
I tend not to.
Most Black heroes in a DC book on the cover and inside the book of all time. That's not a Moscow book.
When they have these cross issue storylines, recently I try not to get sucked into them because of the fact that they seem to be money grabs. I will get the main story, and then that's pretty much about it. Maybe there are a couple here and there that I may pick up. The main cross issue storyline in DC right now is Beast World, where basically Garfield Logan had to transform himself into a Starro type creature in order to prevent some big bad thing from happening. And things went wrong, as they always do. And so now you have all of these Beast World spin-off, 1 shot, 2, 3, 4 shot books. I did buy the Waller one. I did get a couple of the others, but I did buy Waller Rising.
As I like you, I don't like crossovers because they're money grabs. But admittedly, this one's not a horrible book.
It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it.
It's actually better than I expected it would be.
Yep. Now, I'm not getting every version of the story. I'm getting the main Teen Titans. I got the Waller one and maybe 1 or 2 others, but I'm not getting all of them.
T'Chaka being the chieftain of Wakanda could have been the way to start things off for the franchise instead of Black Panther.
Absolutely not, because Black Panther started with T'Challa.
It did. It's a sore subject. All right. So there was a Disney Plus show that aired this week. Called Echo.
5 episodes.
5 episodes. They did not air it one each week. They dumped them all at one time.
Echo made her first appearance in the Hawkeye series. It's weird.
Well, the character, yes, the MCU.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Live action, yeah. It's weird how Marvel Studios is giving these random characters their own shows. For example, Agatha Harkness, who made her appearance in WandaVision, giving her own series. They gave Echo her own series. Moon Knight, okay, I kind of get that because, he's had books throughout the years. What was the other one, the movie that was black and white with Swamp Thing? What was that one called?
Something by Night.
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. there are literally thousands of characters that could get the live action treatment. Echo is not one of the ones who I thought would or should necessarily have. Now, the actress in question is literally deaf. She is literally an amputee, and she does a very good job with the material that she's given. I have no issue with her performance. I have no issue with her inclusion, being a person of native ancestry. I, however, do not think that this character of Echo needed a live action treatment. As a story with 5 episodes, the last two ish episodes brought it down for me. The first three were cool. I really, really enjoyed them. The last two brought it down for me from a potential 8 to like a 7. Um, was not a huge fan of the finale. Did not like the semi-finale, which was episode 4. A lot of stuff was missing. Um, in episode 1, Daredevil made an appearance. That's not a spoiler. It's been talked about all across social media. There was about a 4, maybe 5 minute fight scene in episode 1 that is probably one of the
This
best.
this one right here that's on the screen.
Yeah, there's probably the second best. No, let me take that back. Third, maybe fourth best fight scene in the MCU. The first 2 or 3 being in
Daredevil
Captain America, Winter Soldier. Okay.
and Daredevil.
Well, okay. So when I say MCU, I mean original MCU. I know that they're folding the Daredevil scenes, the Daredevil Netflix shows into the MCU. That's not what I'm considering, because Daredevil, Punisher, they had some phenomenal fight scenes in those movies. I'm not considering those. I'm considering original MCU stuff, being the movie, specifically Captain America Winter Soldier. The bridge fight, the elevator fight, those fights are top notch. Fight in this show, episode 1, with Daredevil appeared, man, that was spectacular. It was really, really, really good. And I am actually looking forward to the new Daredevil series. If you have paid any attention, I am wearing my Nelson and Murdoch at Law.
Yeah, I peeped that. Where'd you get that from? Screen Crush?
I did not. I got that when you and I went to Dragon Con in 2007.
Okay.
So I am looking forward to that. Shout out to Vincent D'Onofrio. That dude is killing it, no pun intended, as Kingpin. Michael Clark Duncan, RIP. I typically am against race bending, gender bending characters. I want the live action actor or actress to look as close as possible to the one that came from the screen. I did not necessarily miss or object to the race bending, because Michael Clark Duncan in the horrible Daredevil movie that came out around 2008, it was before that, whenever the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck came out, bad movie. Michael Clark Duncan was a great Kingpin. Vincent D'Onofrio is also an extremely very good Kingpin. Very good Kingpin.
All right. So my take on the show is this. I enjoyed the show. And so from what I understand historically, what went wrong with this show is that the writer's strike struck. So if you notice, the first 3 episodes were completely different from the last 2 episodes. The first 3 episodes were before the writer's strike. The last 2 episodes, the writer's strike had struck, and they had actually cut the budget of the show. So this show was originally supposed to be 6 episodes, and it was cut down to 5 episodes. And the last episode is only a half an hour long. It's like 33 minutes. So you didn't get we actually were cut short an episode and a half in this series. So that really explains why the last 2 episodes were completely different than the first. The first 3 episodes, you had expansive scenes. Like in the first episode, you had the singular shot fight scene with Daredevil. Brilliant, excellent scene. In the second episode, I think you had the scene where they go back to the 1200 AD in Alabama, and you see the Choctaw Nation flashback. Very epic looking scene. These were movie scale type of scenes that were done in those first 3 episodes. You had none of that in the last 2 episodes. In fact, the last 2 episodes basically took place in like 2 or 3 scenes, 2 or 3 locations.
Here's my
That's
question.
it.
Here's my question, though. Did the writer? Because I would have thought that Echo was in the can already by the time the writer strike took place.
Not fully. No, it was. They were still filming. The last 2 episodes, they literally cut the budget for the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So that's why you see the disparity between the first 3 episodes. It's completely artistically, it's completely different. The first 3 episodes and the last 2 episodes. Now, differences between the MCU and the comics. In the comics, Echo Maya Lopez, her power is mimicry.
Like
It's basically the same powers a Taskmaster has. Now, were they saying, well, we already did a Taskmaster type character, we don't want to do that again? I mean, I suppose that could be a logic for they didn't want to do that, but they changed her powers in the MCU version to being one in which she got some powers from her ancestors. I actually dug that. I actually really dug the connections that they'd made by having the Choctaw Nation help make the film to make it authentic to their culture. I love that. For them, I would imagine this is like their Black Panther in terms of its cultural significance. And I enjoyed being exposed to a different culture, and I felt immersed in that culture in the show. I had no problems with them altering her powers a little bit by adding that she had powers from her ancestors. But I think I would have preferred if they had incorporated that into the original power set that she had in the in the comics, because that ability to mimic other people's talents, they could have explained that as the echo power, right? Hence her name. They could have said your ancestors had the ability to echo other people's power sets. And that would explain her powers. And doing the whole healing thing, they could have added that too, but you didn't have to take away her ability to echo other people's powers. For the power, for the fight scenes and what have you. Yeah, they really lost out on those last 2 episodes. They really did. Cool Easter egg in the last. Did you see the Easter egg in the last episode? Did you stay for the Easter egg?
Wilson Fisk.
Yeah, the Wilson and Fisk one.
So that goes back to our conversation that we were talking about with Luke Cage. So yeah,
with the gang war, yes,
yeah.
Yes. For those, I mean, spoiler alert.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. If you don't want a spoiler for the series, just mute your thing for 30 seconds, and we'll give you a thumbs up when you can come back.
I'd give you our spoiler alert video, but I don't know where the hell the damn thing is.
All right, so it's going to be a spoiler for a little bit, so just chill out for a second. Go ahead and mute your. If you haven't watched Echo and you don't want anything spoiled, go ahead and mute your laptop, your phone, whatever it is. Mute it right now, and then I'll give you the thumbs up when you come back. All right.
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion. Don't look at it, no matter what happens.
Okay, so hold on a second. As an aside, I saw the original Indiana Jones in the theater when it came out in what, 83, 82, whenever it was. That last scene freaked me the hell out as a kid. That scared the hell out of me. But anyway, go ahead.
So the spoiler is that in the last scene, you have Wilson Fisk seeing that there's chaos in New York's electoral process for the mayor, and they're saying we need a strong, authoritarian, gangster-like fighter to be our next mayor. That's to be the guy who wins. And he looks at this television screen and he's contemplating it. And so the illusion is that he may end up running for mayor of New York, which
falls along
leads
with Trump.
to that whole storyline that we're currently talking about with gang war, but more importantly, the whole street level characters of the MCU, such as, because there was just an announcement before Echo dropped that the MCU characters, I'm sorry, that the Netflix characters are now part of the MCU. Marvel just announced that. They previously were like, "Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want to affiliate ourselves with Netflix." They've incorporated all that now. So Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron
Punisher.
Fist, all Punisher, all these are characters that are part of the MCU now. So that sets up a big to do with these characters and Wilson Fisk as mayor of New York. I think that's going to be a dope if they decide to go to that logical conclusion.
One of the channels that I've mentioned here before that is on YouTube that is a great nerd channel is Screen Crush. And Ryan Airy over there at Screen Crush has basically been saying for the past, since Echo has dropped, that Kingpin will be the Thanos level big bad for the street level heroes like Echo, Daredevil, Punisher, blah, blah, blah. This falls right in line with the comic books, as I mentioned earlier when discussing Luke Cage, how Kingpin had actually won the mayoralship of New York, and this seems to be following in those footsteps. Now, as a fan of the comics, I really do enjoy this aspect of it and how they are sticking they're following along this source material. You know, that's one of the things that we as comic book readers and collectors like is seeing on screen the stuff that we read about. That's something that I really appreciate, and I am looking forward to this. I'm also looking forward to the new Daredevil series. We mentioned Blade earlier, who's going to be played by Mahershala Ali. I'm going to be honest, I don't care about that movie at all in one way, shape, or form, because there's just been so much controversy surrounding that property that I just don't care.
Yeah, I don't have very good positive thoughts about the future of that Blade movie. Frustrated fan. The answer to your question, the answer is yes.
Hold on.
I think that is the reason why stuff has been confusing. I think when you go out of your way to make sure that you want your films and movie television shows to be more artistic than comic book accurate, and you're shying away from the source material, you're going to have bad stuff. It worked pretty good when you're using the source material for phase 1 and phase 2. Why move away from what works?
Yeah, I don't know why Kevin would do that, because the whole reason why people are coming to see this stuff is because of the source material. If the source material was not selling, if people did not have interest in the source material, they would not bring it to live action. So why are you going to defecate on those of us who have helped keep these properties going and not include storylines or characters or aspects of what goes on in the books? So, yeah.
Now, here's a question. Jack the Gamer asks, so you're saying Mike can come back as Cage?
I hope he does. I hope he does.
But they could recast. I mean, it's up to Marvel Studios.
Now, let me say this: if they bring Danny Rand back, now, what's his name? Finn Jones. Is it Finn Jones? It's Finn Jones, right?
Finn Jones, yeah.
Finn Jones. All right. So my first exposure to Finn Jones was over in Game of Thrones back in 2010, whenever it was. He was fine. It seems like he was saying that they gave him like 2 weeks from his end of Game of Thrones to the beginning of Iron Fist, and it showed from his physique to the fight choreography, all that stuff. Understand that Danny Rand is a top 10 hand to hand combatant on Earth in the Marvel Universe, and he ain't 10. What we saw from Finn Jones in the live action, dude seemed like he was a green belt, not a master of martial arts. You know, a Girl Scout seemed like he could beat Finn Jones. There was a series that dropped around the same time called Into the Badlands, which was a great show. Into the Badlands was also very heavily martial arts centric. It had Nick Frost, I think that's his name, very fat Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead, from was it Super Cops? I can't remember, but look up Nick Frost, okay? That series had us believing that Nick Frost was a martial arts expert with his very rotund self. Iron Fist could not do the same thing, which was very, very extremely disappointing. I didn't even watch season 2 because season 1 was so very bad. I watched The Defenders, it was disappointing. But I say all that to say, if they decide to bring Iron Fist back, you need to have somebody to get this dude in the weight room, give him some creatine, give him some protein powder, and give him some training so he looks like a badass. Supposedly, Simu Liu, who played Shang-Chi, is not necessarily a martial artist, but
He's not.
he looked like one, right?
Mm.
That's what we need to see if Iron Fist is brought back with Finn Jones.
Yeah, Finn Jones said that he wasn't given a lot of time to learn the choreography. I mean, that's one of the most integral parts of that role is to learn the martial arts.
Yep. Even if you're not a martial artist, you as the actor need to make us believe that you are. And there were a lot of actors in Into the Badlands who are not martial artists. But the way the fight choreography went, I believed it. Not so much in Iron Fist. It was just bad.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to bring Finn Jones back, he's not a bad actor, but they do need to ramp up his choreography.
His train.
They need to train that dude.
He needs to be in the gym right now. He needs to be with a fight choreographer right now, today, January 12th. Okay? Put up the comments. What was that? Something I just said?
What?
The comments.
I tried really hard, but could not get past third episode of Echo.
Listen, the first three, to me, the first 3 episodes were good. 4 and 5, not
they were. But as I said, the last 2 episodes they cut the budget and the writer strike struck, so that's why you have the disparity in the episodes. So, but there was some good stuff in there. Yeah. It just ended on a really weird. It just ended flat.
Basically. Well, not only that, but I did not agree with what they did with the characters, specifically Maya Lopez's family. I didn't agree with that. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Going back to something that you were saying, being from Oklahoma, I went to school with several Native individuals. I do not know off the top of my head right now what tribes they belong to. So being an Oklahoman, I'm accustomed to being around Native Americans.
Is the Choctaw tribe a big one in Oklahoma?
And I honestly can't say yes or no. I think it is, but I don't want to, because the series is set in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I don't want to misspeak. But I will say that like Paul said, I do appreciate the fact that they brought that aspect into the MCU, brought it onto the screen, because a lot of times when it comes to certain what we would call minority groups, their culture is bastardized or colonized or diminished. And I like how Maya Lopez's Native culture was front and center. And I also appreciate how Native culture across different shows has been front and center. There's another series called Reservoir Dogs that I believe is on Hulu. It is filmed in and around my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I watched I think it's 3 seasons. I watched season 1 and 2. I have not watched season 3 yet. One of the actresses from Reservoir Dog, I didn't mean that. Yeah, Res Dogs, plays her cousin in this series. So the girl who plays Maya's cousin, she's from Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs is basically a coming of age story about 4 or 5 native teens. It's a comedy. Very, very good. Season 1 and 2 are spectacular. I
It's
don't
on
know.
it's on Hulu, isn't it?
That's what I said. Yeah, it's on Hulu. So
Okay.
I recommend that. There's another show. Oh, um, not Bass Reeves, but 1883. They're from Taylor Sheridan, who's the great Taylor Sheridan, who has created the Yellowstone universe. In the series, no, it's the 1923. In the 1923 series, one of the characters that he focuses on is a Native woman. I appreciate the fact that in our 21st century, natives are more than just the whooping them up natives that we used to see in the westerns back in the day. They're given more depth, their character is being more developed, and we're seeing more of their culture. And I really appreciate that. Shout out to Taylor Sheridan for what he did in his universe, the creators of Reservoir Dogs, Res Dogs is what they call them, and in Echo. So I do appreciate the fact that the natives are getting their turn in the sun.
No, she's a indigenous person in the
Yeah.
comics as well.
Speaking of indigenous, if you have not seen What If,
Well, she's kind of both. I mean, she's Maya Lopez, but
okay, yeah, I think her dad may have been. Well, I don't know from the comics. I don't know from the comics. I thought her dad in the
historically, there's a lot of overlap there.
yeah. But if you have not watched season 2 of What If, since we were talking about natives, highly recommend season 2. And in fact, the young lady who plays Maya Lopez's cousin, who was in Reservoir Dogs, is the voice of the native character in the What If season 2.
Mm.
So highly
Well, there was something else that aired on the What You Watching list this week. Specifically on the internet, on YouTube. Club Shay Shay. Club Shay Shay blew up the internet. I think they were up to, last I checked, they're at 38 million views.
38? 38.
38 million
38.
views. 38 million.
All right. So for those who don't know, on the left is Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp went to the HBCU Savannah State, played football for them, got drafted by the.
Oh, by the way, that liquor, Le Portier Chez, which is Shannon Sharp's own cognac. I tried to find it. It's like $100, but they don't really sell it at the stores. You got to buy it directly from the distributor. I was going to try and get it for this week.
Yeah. So that's Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp is an NFL Hall of Fame tight end player. He played like 8 or 9 seasons with the Denver Broncos. He played for a couple of seasons with the Baltimore Ravens. He has won 3 NFL titles as a tight end. He set all kinds of tight end records. He was on a show called First Take with Skip Bayless. Whatever
Undisputed.
reason, Undisputed, yes, thank you. He was on the show Undisputed with Skip Bayless for about 7 years up until around June or so of last year. They had a falling out. Shannon decided to go his own way. He started Club Shay Shay, which is basically a YouTube channel where he invites guests on. The guest a couple of weeks ago was the great Katt Williams. Katt Williams is a comedian. You may remember him as Bunny Mike from Next Friday, or whichever the Friday was that was set during Christmas.
Friday After Next.
Friday After Next. Listen to me. Katt Williams is an intelligent person. Katt Williams did something that we've never seen before, where he pulled a metaphorical grenade and set it off in the black comedy world. And by that, what I mean is he, as a youngster say, dropped the T on a lot of your favorite black comedians. And I'm talking about Steve Harvey. I'm talking about Ricky Smiley. I'm talking about Kevin Hart. Just a whole bunch of people. The interview with Katt Williams went almost 3 hours. And one of the things that Shay has said after the fact about the breakdown of that episode was that before Shannon, could even ask a question, Katt Williams talked for literally 30 minutes just getting stuff off of his chest. And I mean, yeah, he was dogging some people out. And one of the things about it is when he was doing this, other than the people he talked about, people aren't really coming out and saying, yeah, he's lying, that didn't happen. People are sitting up here saying, yeah, you know what, he's kind of right. One example is he was talking about how Cedric the Entertainer, one of the kings of comedy, stole one of Katt Williams' jokes. And somebody went to the archives and showed Katt Williams' joke from BET Comic View from like 1998, 99, and then showed Cedric telling the exact same joke from around 2000, 2001.
Steve Harvey too.
Yeah.
I mean, there was film of. I mean, he called Stevie Harvey for stealing jokes from Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mark Curry.
Mark Curry, yes.
And there's the footage is there. If you Google receipts on Katt Williams' interview or response to Katt Williams' interview on YouTube, you'll see the receipts are there. Man wasn't lying. Look, he clearly
hold on. I don't know if he's lying or not, but he's to me seems very credible. Let me just say
he seems very credible. Now, he clearly embellished a few things. There's all those same receipts videos show that he did embellish a few things. He'd been drinking. He was on one. And he's Katt Williams, and he's doing comedy as well. So there was some embellishments, but he did that as part of because he's a comedian. But the best comedians always have an ounce of truth, base their comedy on truth. And if you overlook the embellishments, the core of what he says is still freaking accurate.
One of the things
the main point of what he tries to convey is still accurate. And all the people that he put on blast, that he dropped the T on, not a single one of them has refuted what he said. They've made comments like, well, he's an angry individual who needs to have more peace and love in his life. I don't need to respond to that because I'm a big star now. None of them said, yeah, that's not true. I'm going to sue you for defamation. Not one.
It's funny, people in the black comic world were catching strays left and right? For example, he was talking to Shannon about just something random. And he said to Shannon, you a fat Faison lie. And I'm like, basically, for those who don't know, Faison Love, a.k.a. Big Worm from the original Friday, is the one who caught that stray. And Katt is sitting up here saying how that dude, Faison Love, A, why does he always take his shirts off in his movies, right? B, when was the last time you saw Faison Love on a comedy tour, right? He talked about how Steve Harvey is not a movie star, and Steve Harvey was like, oh, okay, well, I didn't want to be a movie star. Come on now. If you enter entertainment, who doesn't want to be a movie star? When you think about comics specifically, there is the trifecta. When you leave the stage, you get your television show deal, you get your book deal, and then you get your movie deal, right? Some people have been more successful in that than others. I think of Jamie Foxx as an example. Jamie Foxx had the Jamie Foxx show. Then before that, obviously, he was on In Living Color. Then the Jamie Foxx show. Then he was in movies. The Great Booty Call.
Hold on. Hard Knock Life says Cedric came out and stated that he had been doing that joke for years before. But here's the thing. I saw the footage, and he had it. Like,
show us the footage of where Cedric.
Katt Williams did it first. It's one thing for Cedric to say, yeah, I've been doing it for years. Show the receipts, because the net shows the receipts, and that's not true, Seth.
Yeah. But, Katt was sitting up here talking about Steve Harvey. One of the things that he talked about with Steve Harvey that is not refuted, that is in the industry fact. Understand, the Kings of Comedy came out in 2000, I want to say. After the Kings of Comedy, Bernie Mac booked Ocean's 11, which was a remake of the movie by the same name that starred the Rat Pack from 1963. Ocean's 11, the movie with Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Matt Damon, etc., came out around 2002. Bernie Mac was in that movie. Something that I don't believe is refuted anywhere and was a cause of the rift between Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey is that Steve Harvey, after Bernie Mac got that role, after they had been on this, 50, 60 city tour as the Kings of Comedy, Steve Harvey called the producers of Ocean's 11 and said, hey, let me get that Bernie Mac role. And the producers were like, nah. And then they told Bernie this, and that was the end of their friendship. Think about that. That's what we used to call some dirty macking. That's like you liking a particular female. You tell your boy, yeah, I like her. Then you go to the bathroom, and then supposedly your boy, comes up and tries to nail her himself. That's that type of level of deviousness, right? And I do not believe that has ever been refuted anywhere. So I say all that to say Katt was dropping some bombs that have rarely been refuted.
And then the whole stuff he was revealing about the quote unquote Illuminati.
Okay, now that's kind of. Now I don't believe that. No.
That seems a bit embellished, but I
no.
Is it far fetched that people have to make certain compromises to be successful in Hollywood? I don't think there's a single person in Hollywood that would disagree with that concept.
Basically what Katt was saying is that in order to be successful as a black man, black comic in Hollywood,
not to be successful, but to be fast tracked to success,
you had to give up your booty hole. That's basically what Katt Williams was saying. And he said to pretty much to the extent is, my goal was to come out to Hollywood, be successful, and not suck no penis and not give up my booty hole. And he was implying that other people had done that. Now, I don't believe that personally. You're free to believe whatever it is that you want to believe. And I think that is some embellishment, and he was sitting up here talking about the Illuminati, and I don't believe that.
Well, he specifically mentioned Diddy.
Okay, now I'm not going to say that he mentioned Diddy in the vein of being part of the Illuminati, but Diddy being the person who's sitting up here trying to sex everybody. Okay, I can buy that. I can believe that. But he mentioned Ludacris as an example, and he sat up here and said that he, Katt Williams, and Ludacris were offered admissions into the Illuminati, but the caveat was you had to cut your hair, and if you did that, you'd be given a light skinned wife and blah blah blah. Then when you look at Ludacris's wife, she is light skinned. Ludacris did cut his hair. Katt Williams also said that he had to turn down $50 million 4 times. And then he said something to the effect that you look at Ludacris and the movies that he's done, specifically the Fast and Furious movies, and how long Ludacris has been doing Fast and Furious movies since 2002. Okay, let's let that sink in.
20 years.
Know how much he gets paid per film, but I would imagine that the price increases per. And, he's made a successful run in the Fast and Furious realm.
Night Watch mentions that Gary Owens backed Katt's claims. He said that Hollywood is all about the booty hole. I saw the Gary Owens interview. He did mention that there was a experience he had where he was approached by a dude in Hollywood for benefits because of his interest in Gary Owens. So he says that, he said, on that front, Katt Williams is correct. That stuff does happen in Hollywood.
Okay, and that I will not discount that. simply because we understand that the casting couch back in the nascent days of Hollywood was actually a thing. Okay, you starlet, you look pretty good. Okay, I need you to go sleep with this producer so you can get a role in this particular director's next movie. The casting couch was a real thing. Okay,
Yeah.
obviously what they're saying is that that applied to men, and obviously there are gay folks in Hollywood. That should not be a surprise. um it I'm not going to sit up here and say, suggest, or even think that certain actors became successful because they got on their knees either from the front or the back for a particular producer or director. May they have, perhaps, but I'm not going to automatically give that credence. Do I think that several probably have been approached? Yeah. If you are an attractive person or somebody finds you attractive and they're in a position of power, they're going to use their position of power to try to get what they want. Harvey Weinstein is a prime example of that. Luda's first movie was Crash. I don't know.
I don't remember him in Crash.
He and Lawrence Trait robbed were a couple of crooks in that. I don't know if that movie came out before the first Fast and Furious movie.
Was he one of the guys that pulled over what's her face? Pretty Woman?
Julia Roberts?
Julia Roberts.
I don't know. Let me just say, okay, so no. Crash was not his first movie. Crash came out in 2004. Ludacris's first appearance was in Fast and Furious 2.
Too Fast, Too Furious. Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, right. That was 2002. So no, Crash was not his first film.
Louisiana Kid says, my 3 favorite comedians of all time are Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and Eddie Murphy. Now, it's interesting because one of the comments that Katt Williams makes is like, you guys calling yourselves the kings of comedy based on what criteria? The real kings of comedy are these 3 guys right here. Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. There's not a single black comedian alive who is successful black comedian, who has not inspired or borrowed material from one of these 3 individuals.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Red Fox inspired Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor inspired Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, correct.
Yep.
In that order.
Yep.
He said, now, according to Katt, in order to make it, you have to put on a dress. I can't recall Rich putting on no dress. Well, that's old Hollywood. I don't know. Maybe the new Hollywood, that's a thing.
Well, let me say this, and I'm going to go off on a slight tangent, but there was some preacher railing against Tyler Perry, and Katt Williams mentioned Tyler Perry, which is why I'm bringing this up. And this preacher was talking about how Tyler Perry wearing a dress was doing all this bad stuff, blah, 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 as if Tyler Perry was the first black actor on film in a dress. Now, Tyler Perry...
I agree, Frustrated Kid.
Because she's right.
Bill Cosby should be in that top there.
Tyler Perry translated his Medea character into a literal billion-dollar business. Let me say that again. Tyler Perry is worth over $1 billion on the back of him wearing a dress, playing this particular character.
And on stage first, though, that's the difference. Is that Tyler Perry was made literally in doing plays. I mean, I remember seeing Tyler Perry on VHS.
Correct. In his
because
Medea plays.
We all got exposed to those Tyler Perry plays
on
VHS tape, and they'd hand them out and they'd sell them at the churches. That's where Tyler Perry got his fame, was playing Medea and stayed in Christian plays that'd be released on bootleg VHS or DVDs eventually. And that's where he gained his notoriety before he filmed his first film.
Yep, absolutely.
So he went into Hollywood already with money in his pocket and a fan base.
Correct.
So he's kind of the exception to the rule.
Well,
but what Katt Williams specifically said is that dude can't act. He can play Medea. He can play a woman perfect. But if you ever see him play a male role, he's not that great an actor. That's what Katt Williams said.
That's what Katt Williams says, and I disagree with Katt Williams in that regard. But going to this particular preacher talking about specifically Tyler Perry, and I hate Tyler Perry slander. You know, the preacher was criticizing Tyler Perry for wearing a dress, blah blah blah. As if Tyler Perry was the first person to do this. You can go back to the '60s. There's a comedian and actor named Flip Wilson. And Flip Wilson had his own variety show. And he had a character by the name of, what was it, Claudine, Nadine, something like that. This is in the 1960s. Then you fast forward, you had Jamie Foxx play Wanda.
LaWanda,
and then you have Martin Lawrence play Shanae. So why this guy was focusing on Tyler Perry seemed like a huge amount of hate to me when you look at what actually Tyler Perry has done.
Katt Williams clearly mixed in his own personal beef and his own issues. I mean, he mentioned the fact the other thing I would say is that the other video you need to watch is his interview that he did a few days after the Shay Shay video the interview he did with Willie D. Google that, because he wasn't drinking in that interview. So a lot of the embellishments that you saw in the Shay Shay video, the animated stuff that you see on screen, he didn't do that in that interview. That was a completely coherent, sober, contemplative Katt Williams. I actually, in some respects, preferred his interview with Willie D than I did with the one he did with Shannon Sharpe. Because the Shannon Sharpe one was done, as he said, for the purpose of, breaking the internet because he's got a show coming out, a special coming out, a tour coming out. The Willie D interview, which was kind of like his follow-up or response to the Shannon Sharpe video, I thought revealed more in some respects.
Let me say this.
And one of the things that he revealed in the Willie D video is that when he was a kid, he was assaulted when he was on the streets of Miami. That's like his first experience with some gay person that apparently approached him and assaulted him. And I think that sort of influences his perspectives on this stuff, because as people are pointing out, these comedians that he reveres, a lot of them wore dresses as well. Flip Wilson, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, they've all worn dresses.
I don't recall Eddie Murphy has, because he was the mama in
Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor. That's absolutely right. The Club Shay Shay interview with Katt Williams is up to 45 million views in 9 days.
Wow.
We're at 45 million. Yeah. But I mean, it was, one of the things that Shannon Sharpe had said after the fact, because a lot of people were criticizing him. Shannon Sharpe was saying, look, I'm not a journalist, I'm an entertainer. This was for entertainment. You know what I'm saying? If you want something hard hitting, go to 60 Minutes. That's not what this is.
Big Remo says, I think his point is the dress is a gateway to other things that he wanted no parts of, respectfully. I agree. I think he said that the dress is almost symbolic of your willingness to compromise your values or beliefs for the purposes of fast tracking your career.
I don't think Kevin Hart has ever worn a dress.
Well, he said Kevin Hart wore a dress. In fact,
when has Kevin Hart worn a dress in? Think about Kevin. Whoa, hold on. Think about Kevin Hart's filmography.
Mm-hmm.
I've pretty much seen most of Kevin Hart's films, with the exception of Soul Plane, which I have not seen. Outside of that, I can't think of anything that Kevin Hart specifically has been in where he wore a dress. And Kevin Hart, I've seen interviews with him. I'm not going to say it's in response to this interview, but Kevin Hart, I've seen interviews with him talking about Katt Williams, where Kevin acknowledges that Katt was supposed to be the guy, the up and coming comic. After Money Mike in that Friday movie, which was early 2000s, And I remember seeing him and, in the cut and all in different things. I'm like, okay, this dude is on the rise. But his Kevin Hart's I didn't mean that. Cat Williams' career never really has taken off in the movies. It may be because, he didn't want to do certain films, certain things. And I'm not saying it had anything to do with anything gay or wearing dresses, but, Cat Williams did not take advantage of certain opportunities, you know. But no, I can't recall any movie where Kevin Hart wore a dress. If anybody knows what it is, put it in the comment because again, I've seen most of his movies, and there's not a one that I can think of where he did that.
I just found it. Hold on. It was on Saturday Night Live.
Okay, okay. As a skit, I don't know if I would consider that because
I mean,
The Rock.
Whether it be a skit or a movie, I mean, it is.
Okay, yes, he was in a. If you find and he was in a dress in a skit on Saturday Night Live, fine. But that was after he had already had success because you don't get a Saturday night hosting gig as just some regular dude, right?
That's him wearing a dress.
I've never seen that. What were some of the other comments? I didn't see some of the other ones.
Let's see. Well, I think one of the things the frustrated fans is one of the things Cat Williams is pointing out is that he did the Saturday Night Live skit after he made a comment about he would never wear a dress, and then he did wear a dress. That's what Cat Williams is calling him out about. Nightwatch says, "Nah, dress is dress. Doesn't matter if it's a skit, a movie, or a television show. Stop trying to rationalize it. You wore a dress on air."
Okay. He did. He was horrible in that movie. That was when he was first acting, and that was with Vince Vaughn, John Travolta, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, he sure did.
Nightwatch says maybe they said he had to wear a dress in order to host SNL.
Y'all taking it too far.
That's where the conspiracy theories of Cat Williams comes in.
I hate conspiracy theories. You guys are taking it way too far.
He beat out Tim Meadows for longest running cast member, who was another black guy.
Right.
I don't know if it's just a black guy. I think he's the longest running cast member, period.
Right. No, that's not what he was saying. He was not saying that he was the longest running black guy. He was saying that he was the longest running character and beat out Tim Meadows, who also, by the way, was also black.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Big Remo, most people from SNL go on to be the best writers. Yeah.
Yeah.
TV show and movies, SNL was when he wore the dress. Yes.
That clip that you showed with Kevin Hart, I've never seen that before in my life.
I wish I had never seen that.
I don't watch Saturday Night Live like that. So
I could have gone with my life without having seen Kevin Hart dancing around in a dress.
But that was pretty damn funny, even without the sound. I don't know what was being said, but that was funny.
So that's the show, everybody.
Well, hold on a second. Monarch, are you watching? You're watching Monarch.
I am not watching Monarch. I've been told that I'm missing out as a Godzilla fan in not watching Monarch. I haven't seen Godzilla -1 yet. Have you seen that movie?
Oh my God, I saw it in the theater. The actor, the Japanese. Okay, so when I saw that Godzilla -1 was in the theater, I had absolutely no idea what it was about. Right.
I don't even know how to.
I have been watching Monarch from episode 1. I did not know what Godzilla -1 was about. Godzilla -1 is not in the same universe as Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, the ones that we have been watching. It's a separate Godzilla. That movie was phenomenal. The main actor in Godzilla -1 needs to be Oscar nominated for Best Actor. The movie is a 10 out of 10 for me. Okay, Godzilla -1 is phenomenal. Now,
No, Derek, I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't get
Right.
out to the movies. When do I have the free
Godzilla
time to
minus
go see
one
the
is
movies?
phenomenal. Now, Monarch, the series, is set in the same universe as Kong Skull Island, Godzilla versus Kong, all those. There's all the same universe. Monarch is a phenomenal show. Like 10
Here
out
we
of
go.
10.
Frustrated Fan Show. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Appreciate you tremendously, man. Showing love. And for that, we give you this.
So if you've not seen Monarch, I highly recommend that. If you have not seen Reacher, highly recommend that as well. Night Watch is absolutely correct. Okay, so hold on a second. Nobody say anything. Night Watch. Does not the actor in Godzilla minus one deserve an Oscar nomination for Best Actor? I want to see what he says. That movie was phenomenal. Yes, Hard Knock Life. Yes, a Godzilla movie should deserve an Oscar. If Batman can get an Oscar, if Wakanda Forever can get an Oscar nomination for Angela Bassett, yes, Godzilla deserves an Oscar. Stop thinking about the genre and think about the performance. And the performance of that actor, whose name I do not know off the top of my head, all due respect to that actor, he played a phenomenal role. There was nothing that they could have done for Godzilla minus one to make that movie better. It was a phenomenal movie. Absolutely phenomenal. And his performance was great.
I will see if my wife will give me permission to go to the movies this weekend.
Lord Jesus. Almost dropped my drink. Almost spilled my yak, as they say.
Well, listen, thank you all for following us tonight. It's Friday night. You guys could be anywhere in the world doing anything other than watching us, and we appreciate you. If you haven't already, please hit the like button at the bottom of the screen. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you dug what we did, it allows you to know when we're going to do this stuff again. Really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm so that we can keep the Black Comic Lords alive as a channel. So until next time, Derek says, get that permission slip, Paul. You know how it is, man. It's got a lot of moving parts in my life. But hey, man, it's nice talking to you.
As always, hey, guys, thanks for joining us. See you next time. Make sure that you follow us on our socials. I am ATLBLERD on the Twitters and Instagram. And see you next time.
And I don't have a real social media persona. So you can catch me at Black Comic Lords, particularly on Twitter. That's mostly me. So until next time, everyone. Peace.
Peace.